Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, where today I'm going to be doing a video that I saw Annette from Annette's Makeup Corner do. This was a while ago, I think. She was talking about if she could only keep 10 palettes from her collection, which 10 would they be? And, you know, for somebody who has a really huge collection, that must be quite the daunting task. My collection is much smaller than Annette's. I think I have about 30 palettes. I'm always trying to refine it to be more curated to my personal tastes and preferences, but it was still actually kind of a difficult task. But I finally narrowed it down. If you want to see that, don't go anywhere. If you're new to my channel, sorry, a bit of a long intro, but my name is Rachel. I am a homeschooling stay-at-home mom. I really enjoy playing with colorful eyeshadow, and I upload about 3 videos a week, all eyeshadow related content. If you would like to see more, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. Just so you guys know, before we get into this, I did film today's eyeshadow look, and I'll link it down below in the description box if you're interested. Now, let's get going because I want to talk about eyeshadow palettes. I always want to talk about eyeshadow palettes. I have a decent variety here on my lap, and I'm just going to dive right in. I was thinking, how can I choose palettes that would offer me a nice range of colors, but also, you know, be things that I like, things that get used. And the first one I want to talk about is Blue Moon from Colourpop. Now, not all of my palettes in this video are monochromatic, but this is just a really great blue staple in my collection. I like to play with blue eyeshadow, and my preferences overall tend to be more on the lighter side of things. I like some drama in the outer corner, but I really like lighter tones and shimmers as well because I'm just experimenting with what works for my face. Today was a dark blue smoky eye look, but that's not my typical look. So I think that this palette, it gives me a good range of colors. Obviously, we go quite light to quite dark, and you've got shimmers in both of those options. A couple lighter shimmers here, mid-tone, and then a dark shimmer. And every blue in this palette is different enough that it really justifies itself within the palette. Like, there's nothing that's even close to anything else. It's 9 different shades of blue between shimmers and mattes, and they're all really good. The quality of this palette is excellent. I have several of the BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop palettes, and many people have said that the Bubblegum palette, which is the blue version within that series, is not as good as this one. So I've decided not to buy that one because I have enjoy and use the Blue Moon palette from Colourpop. Now, Colourpop does have another blue monochromatic palette within this series. It's called On Cloud Blue, and it's much more pastel tones. I prefer this one personally because I like that I get a couple pastels, but I also get much darker colors. If I want to go smoky or I want to go deep and dramatic, I have those choices. If we're talking about more monochromatic palettes from Colourpop, I did pull out In the Limelight. Now, I was slightly surprised that this one made my top 10. This one, initially, I wasn't super excited about. It was well reviewed, but when I used it myself the first couple of times, I was a little bit like, okay, I have to just keep dipping into the pan a lot to get the color payoff I wanted. But I ended up wanting to use it more and more because I really like the light tones that it offers. Of course, I just love a lime green shimmer. I have a whole video where I'm swatching my lime green shimmers. I think I have 9 lime greens that I swatched in the video. If you want, I'll card that above for you if you care. But yeah, I love a lime green shimmer, and this is a good one. And then this is also a nice limey green. It's a little bit more foresty, not quite as yellow toned, but it's still a really nice limey kind of shimmer. And this palette offers a decent selection of lime green colors with a few complementary colors. And then this beautiful shade right here can also be used as a face highlight. I have wanted to use it more and more. It gives me a great transition color if I want to use darker greens elsewhere. It's also a really nice palette if you want to bring in other tones with a little bit of green. You could do a yellow look with a bit of green, or a brown look with a base of green. And it's just because it's these lighter tones, you get some really nice transition colors away from whatever else your eye look is featuring. This is a nice palette. Since we're talking about green palettes, I figure I might as well mention my favorite green eyeshadow palette. This is the Dirty Martini palette from Glam. There are lots of green palettes on the market. One which has always sparked my interest was the Tropical Vibes from Ace Beauté, but that one's a lot more grungy, brown, khaki kinds of greens, a couple of which I really don't think will look that good on me. But within the Dirty Martini palette, it's all beautiful. It's all beautiful. And I like that it's not fully monochromatic. It's pretty heavy on the greens, obviously, but then you've got a couple more blue tones here. This is a lovely teal, just vibrant teal shade, and then more complementary tones between vintage golds, bronze, sort of a berry kind of shimmer. We've got some more silvery tones, and then a few browns to ground it out. It's a solid palette. The color story is really well thought out. It's well balanced between greens and complementary tones for the greens. I just think it's great. The quality is good, the colors are great, the payoff is good, they all blend, they all build. It's a really nice palette. There is an Ace Beauté palette in my collection that I want to talk about in today's video. This is the Flare palette. This is actually the old formula, but I don't even care. I adore the color story within this palette. I think it is so beautiful. It's autumnal, but it can also go more bright. We've got this weird acid color here that can actually work in a very surprisingly complementary way with several of these other tones. I like that this dips into the more cool tone blues and teal shades over here with a nice icy blue shimmer, but it also dips into the more purple tones. We've got a more fuchsia magenta color here, and then this one is sort of a dove gray lavender kind of shade. It's interesting. This palette makes me smile, and every time I open it up I get several ideas right off the bat. I just go, ooh, I could do that. Oh, I could do that too. And ooh, I want to pair these together. And I get excited about this palette. This one really gets me going, like, oh, what could I do with this today? So many options, and I see so many different combinations and so much variety within this palette. It really gets me excited. I love to play with this palette. It's probably one of my most played with in recent months. Now, this is a collaboration palette, which I got long after it was released, like 3 years after it was released. I found it on Poshmark for, I think, $8. And I was really excited because this palette, the Through My Eyes palette between Colourpop and I Love Sarahi, has always been intriguing to me. I love the packaging. It's got a really nice, solid quality weight to it, but the color story inside has always caught my interest. I think it's such a unique idea with these more bronzy, berry, purpley tones with a couple pops of teal, and then there's a yellow one here, a few neutrals, again, to help get you grounded or to turn the look into a different direction. We have a gray inner corner highlight or face highlight, a neutral to blend out everything, more of a reddish, pinkish kind of shimmer. Beautiful dusty rose here. It's just an interesting color story, and I think that it's flattering on a lot of skin tones. Someone who's more light or pale could look really lovely in these more berry, purpley kinds of tones, whereas someone with darker skin or with like yellow undertones could really rock these bronze colors. I find it unique. I find it interesting. I do like to play with it. I actually brought this one on vacation recently. I have talked to one or two people who said that they didn't have the best luck with the quality within this palette, particularly this shade they said wasn't great for them. I personally haven't had any issues, and again, this palette was released, I believe, in 2019, which is before I ever started playing with eyeshadow, so it's a couple of years old now. It's probably expired, but I haven't had any problems with it, and I really like it. So you can see that I've been trying to choose some palettes that offer me some variety. This is the next monochromatic palette in my selection for today. It's the Lilac You A Lot palette from Colourpop. This was actually a toss-up between this and, shocking to all, the All Amethyst palette from Colourpop, which is also more lilac toned with a bit more variety. I say shocking because if you don't know, I haven't given that palette great reviews. The first couple times I used it, I was really bummed by some of the mattes, but then the next few times I used it, I really loved the rest of the mattes and the shimmers. So that palette gets mixed reviews from me. And I almost included it in today's video, but I chose this one instead because this one offered a little bit more variety within the shimmers, within the purple tone shimmers. And also, all of the mattes in here are great. There are no dud shades at all in this palette. Whereas with All Amethyst, 3 of the shades are kind of duds. And the shimmers are beautiful, but I think I can get those shimmers pretty well represented elsewhere. So that's why this palette came out on top instead. This is such a good purple toned eyeshadow palette. Again, every color works, it makes sense, justifies its existence within the palette. You get variety in the mattes and the shimmers. This is a beautiful soft pink, beautiful soft purple. You've got some deepening shades. This shade right here, it looks more neutral, but it's actually quite a purple brownish kind of tone. It's weird because it doesn't look on the eyes the way it looks in the pan, but it's always looking nice. And then again, some different shimmers options. You could use one of these as a face highlight, you can use them as an inner corner highlight, and I personally prefer more medium to light tone shimmers on myself, and all 4 of these shimmers count in that category. So this is just such a great palette. This is a staple in my collection, and when I was looking at my pile as I gathered together these top 10 palettes, I was like, okay, I don't really have any purples represented. I need a purple palette, so here you go, Lilac You A Lot. There's one more monochromatic palette to be talked about in today's video, but it's not from Colourpop. This is from BH Cosmetics. This is the Orange Sorbet palette from their Sweet Shop series. I have 3 of these palettes. I currently am in possession of one that I'm holding for a friend, so she let me play with it, and these are really good. I completely understand the excitement and the hype over these palettes. This series was a smash hit for all reasons. Between the packaging, the color story, the quantity of product you get, the quality of product. Oh my goodness, so good. So here's Orange Sorbet. Of the 3 palettes from this series which I own, this is definitely my favorite. There's just something about the orange eyeshadow that gets me excited. I think it's fun, vibrant, a little unusual. It's not to be expected, and it can add such a beautiful level of brightness and oomph to any look, any outfit. I mean, I just really like orange eyeshadow. It's so much fun to play with. So here's Orange Sorbet. We've got 4 mattes, 4 shimmers. I could say that I wish this palette went a smidge darker, but it's orange. I mean, how dark can orange go before it becomes brown or red? So these two are a little bit closer to that. You've got a very orange toned brown and a more reddish sort of tone orange. It's more vermilion or blood orange. You do get variety within the shimmers. I'm just looking at these shimmers at like, I think it's like 11 o'clock, 11:30 at nighttime right now. And so all I've got is my ring light shining on me to give me some illumination. But I see different tones in all 4 of these shimmers. And I just think it's so beautiful. And the quality is amazing. The looks that you get can be varied. You can pair this with other things. You can do it on its own. Last time I used this was recent, actually. It was sort of a brown, smoky kind of look with a pop of orange on the lower lash line. And I used this orange first, and then I put this one on to deepen it out. It was just pop. So interesting and sort of fallish and lovely. This is such a good palette, and the colors, just these vibrant, bright oranges, are exciting to me. They make me smile. Okay, we've done 7 of the 10 palettes. There are only 3 left. If you've watched any of my videos in the last couple of months, you might be able to guess at least one of these upcoming palettes. These are in no particular order, by the way. It's just, I tried to space them out based on general color stories and brand. So they're in no particular order. The next one I want to talk about is the Hella palette between Annette and Untitled. Untitled is probably my favorite brand. I love their packaging. I love their color stories, their formula, performance. They're just a great company. And Annette is my favorite YouTuber. I think we all know that at this point. This is the Hella palette, and this color story, you want to talk about saturated colors that totally reflect the packaging? Here we go. Look at this color story. It is so gorgeous. It's just stunning. The bottom row especially, and then this bright green, this bright yellowy tone, and then this like yellow greenish gold. They're so vibrant. It's more of a green heavy palette, but then these pops of pink and more of a deep plum sort of color. And then this bottom row is very interesting. This shade here, double-sided, can be used again as a face highlighter. I'm really enjoying when a palette can offer me a light tone shade that I can use as a face highlighter, because it ties the color from the eyes into the face a little bit, and it's just really lovely. The shade here, River, is in really interesting purpley silvery kind of tone. And then over here we've got the shade Complete, which is black with a whole bunch of sparkle in it. But it's not a shimmer. I don't know, it's just, the palette is so vibrant. The colors are full, and they're much, like the greens are much more warm toned, whereas down here we've got cooler tones. Again, Untitled is such great quality, so you're going to get an amazing result all the time, no matter what shades you play with. And I really enjoy pairing this with other palettes. I really enjoy pairing this with the orange palette and some more pink or purple tones. It's just a lot of fun and such good quality. I think I've covered most of the colors that I could do within these 8 palettes so far. Pink is not very well represented, but there are a couple really good pinks in the Hella palette, and then there are the deeper purpley pink tones in Flare. So I think I'm okay on the pink front. I've got 2 palettes left. This first one is the Blueberry Muffin palette from BH Cosmetics. This is a great palette. The quality is amazing. It's so good. This is more of a light, cool toned blue palette, but this one contributes to my little collection of 10 because it has 2 really good browns. I am considering getting just a basic neutral palette. White, black, and some browns in between, because I don't have like any of those shades. But anyway, this palette offers me 2 really great browns, and the shadows in this palette, they just, I say it every time I use it, they blend themselves. You just have to look at the palette and they're on your eyes blended beautifully. It requires almost no work to get a great blended eyeshadow look with these browns and these blues. I think what tipped me over the edge for this one, for tonight's video, was the shimmers, because again, I'm really tending towards medium to light tone shimmers, and this palette offers a very nice handful of those. Now, they're all cooler toned, but there's a variety of more brown toned or pinky tones or white tones. This is silvery. This one's got some purplish in it. This one's got some bluish in it. So there's a decent variety, but none of them are too dark, and I did like that. That, I think, is why I chose this palette over a couple other ones. There's a gray here, there's a neutral here. It's not the most exciting palette, but it's very, very good quality, and I could easily pair this with many of the other ones that I've chosen for tonight's video and just get a lovely look with the variety and contrast that I like. And then the final palette in tonight's video is, drumroll please, Wilderness from Beauty Bay. Okay, I have owned 3 Beauty Bay palettes, Wilderness, and then I bought Age of Opulence, and then I bought Love Notes. I have since sold the other 2, but I kept Wilderness. I totally understand the hype over this palette as well. I find the color story to be quite interesting. I think it's really beautiful. I think the tones that they've chosen are well thought out. You've got more cool tone shades up here in this upper corner and then warmer earth tone shades in the lower corner. It's laid out in a way that makes so much sense between the blues and the minty greens, the more earth tone greens and yellows, and then the reds and oranges. There are shimmers that work with all the mattes. You've got light, medium, dark tones in all the colors. And I almost pulled out the Mint to Be palette from Colourpop, but I thought, you know what? That's a great palette as well. If I could choose 11, that probably would have been one of the 11. But I've got some more minty tones in here that I can make work. And so this palette, I think, finishes rounding out my color story for tonight. It offers some more neutral brownish yellow tones, a little bit of a brownish orange, a couple of reds, which are represented nowhere else in my collection. Not any reds, you know. And I think it's really beautiful. So many of these colors would work with all of the other palettes. And again, if I could only keep 10 palettes, I want them to be able to work together. Now, a few honorable mentions. I almost pulled the Hummingbird palette from Uden's Eye. And then, of course, the All Amethyst was an honorable mention. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I am. What else was an honorable mention? The Sol Monet 2 from Uden's Eye was certainly a contender. There were several palettes that almost made the cut, but didn't quite. And again, even though my collection is not huge, this was actually kind of tricky, but lots of fun. I recommend that you do this yourself. If you want to just have a little tour through your collection, grab a theme and have some fun, absolutely. Pick your top 10 palettes. If you could only keep 10, they might not even be your 10 favorites, but if you could only keep 10, what 10 palettes would bring you the most value based on what you like to wear? It's a lot of fun. So thank you very much for hanging out with me tonight. I hope you had a great day. I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to check out this eye look if you want to see how I did it. Remember to like and subscribe if you want to see lots more colorful content. And until I see you in my next video, I do hope that you have a lovely day. Bye.